Yesterday, we had the release of the new consumer price index. This is basically the number the government puts out to tell you how bad inflation is. And the Biden administration was celebrating. Great news, the Biden administration says. Was it? I don't think so. EJ Dion is an economist over at Heritage Foundation. EJ, you don't think so either, do you?
No, not at all, Larry. And unfortunately, the Biden administration doesn't really seem to have a very good understanding of how their policies are affecting average Americans. This is one of the problems we have with the elites in Washington, D.C. They are so far removed from the ramifications of their own actions.
Last time we talked about inflation, I think about a month ago, EJ, this is going to be a monthly date for us, apparently. You had said something extraordinary that basically for every American right now, 2 years into the Biden administration, life is costing them over $7,500 more on an annual basis. Is that number holding strong?
Larry, right now it's about $7,400. And the way we arrive at that is we look at how much people are actually earning, but how much can that money also buy? So yes, it's great that people's paychecks are getting bigger, but when prices are increasing even faster, you're not
Right.
better off, you're actually worse off. And on top of that, now
That's
that the Federal Reserve is belatedly raising interest rates, that's increasing borrowing costs. So you're paying more in interest on everything from a mortgage to a student loan, everything from credit cards to auto loans.
All right, EJ, let's go through some of these numbers here, and we're going to zoom out and sort of give it some historical value over the course of the last few years. We'll start with the consumer price index. Let's take a look at that because this spike that we see is absolutely extraordinary. And I'm looking at it. The spike is January of 2021. That's right when Biden took office.
Absolutely. And what people can see in this graph are several different measures for inflation. So, for example, we have not just the CPI, but we have core CPI, which takes out food and energy because food and energy tend to be more volatile. But then we also have two other measures here from the Cleveland Fed. And one of them only looks at the 50th percentile, and then the other measure takes out the outliers in the CPI. And so what you're left with is more so what things in the middle are doing. And what we can see is that this is not simply just being driven by a few outliers, for example. This is being driven by common consumer staples.
Yeah, President Biden constantly, I mean, he says it in every speech he gives. Oh, everyone yells about inflation, but most of it was just new cars because of the microchips. Well, that's not really true. Let's look at this breakdown. It's extraordinary across the board here on very specific items. Yes, we're talking about natural gas, delivery service, pet food, airfare, car repair. Everything's up, EJ.
Right, exactly. And one of the things that's really frustrating is when the president will make these comments about how, oh, last month, the increase was driven by gasoline prices. Or, yesterday he said the increase was driven by the price of eggs going up. Eggs account for less than 0.2% of the overall CPI. In other words,
Hmm.
even if the price of eggs were to double in a single month, the CPI would go up by less than 0.2%. So by no means is this being driven by a single item. Again, this is being driven by consumer prices across the
Yeah.
board going up. And they're common items. We're not talking yachts and caviar here. We're talking milk and bread.
Yeah, in fact, EJ and Tony, let's get to this next. I mean, American voters feel inflation when they pump their car full of gas and when they go to the grocery store. And the grocery numbers are extraordinary. Let's take a look here. Flour, in order, left to right: flour, cookies, hot dogs, turkey. There's your eggs number. Dairy products, lettuce, canned fruits and vegetables, butter. I mean, that's every weekly menu in an American household.
Exactly. And again, if we were only talking about a single item that had risen pretty dramatically, it would not impact consumers' budgets that much. For one thing, we don't spend a large portion of our budgets on any one single food item. But then the other thing is we can make substitutions, right? Consumers have alternatives because of our wonderful capitalist system and the
Hmm.
miracle that we have that we call grocery stores. But when everything is going up because the value of the dollar is going down, there is no safe haven.
Yeah. And the reason that he likes to dwell on things, he can say, well, it's the cars at the beginning, but that was because of microchips and, there was a worldwide shortage. And now with the eggs, he's like, wow, there's this avian flu. Because all of these things are things that he pretends he doesn't have control of. And that may explain those two individual items. But my gosh, EJ, these numbers don't lie. It really is across the board. And you say it goes right back to his policies.
Absolutely. And again, the average family is effectively $7,400 poorer today as compared to
Yeah,
when Biden took office. But I do want to point out that that is just an average. For those who forget their second grade math, there are always people above the average. There are always people below the average. If you're one of the
right.
poor suckers trying to get a home right now, your mortgage payment, your monthly mortgage payment is 80% higher than it was when Biden took office. That's a $9,500 annual difference.
Let's also go to what's at the root of so many of these price increases, and that's energy. Because energy is not just about filling your car up with gas to get to grandma's house. It's all the trucks, all the shipping, all of the businesses that utilize transportation to move products or services. Let's go to these fuel costs right now. We're looking at natural gas on the left, oil, absolutely a huge spike. Again, these are year over year increases. If you zoomed out to 2 years, it would probably be even worse at the beginning of the Biden administration. And this item in particular, Antony, this actually affects almost everything else in the CPI, doesn't it?
Larry, that's spot on. People I think really underestimate just how much the price of energy affects everything we do and everything else we buy. And so it is going to cost, we just talked about, trying to buy a home today. Let's say you still rent, whether you rent or own, it doesn't matter. You're paying about 17% more on average to stay warm this winter. And obviously, as your viewers can tell, if you're one of the poor people who are using home heating oil, you're in an even worse situation. It's going to
Yeah.
cost you at least 50% more.
Yeah. And as you can see on that graph, the electric costs are up too. And of course, the big solution that this administration has is, well, just get an electric car and electrify your house and get solar panels, and you'll get a tax rebate for all of those things, which of course presumes you have the money to buy those things in the first place. But electrifying everything doesn't actually make the big difference that they claim it does. Or real fast, EJ, on our last graph here, because the other Biden talking point is, well, real wages are up, so people are making more money. Let's take a look at that. The blue line does show how hourly wages have gone up, but what's that green line there, EJ?
Well, Larry, that shows what we were talking about earlier, what your paycheck can actually buy. So even though your paycheck is growing, what you can get for that paycheck has been steadily shrinking under the Biden administration. And, frankly, he had the gall yesterday to say that people are able to buy more today than they were just 6 or 7 months ago. Okay, what about 8, 9, or 10 months ago? What about since the start of your presidency? As you can tell from that chart, people can buy less even though they're making more.
So this is one of those things where, like, let's say you get a 5% raise this year, from which is a fine raise. But if everything costs 7% more, you're 2% on the whole. I mean, that's math I can figure out. EJ, real fast, Republicans won the majority, partly because they said they wanted to do something about this. What can they do?
The number one thing they can do is stop the spending. If we stop the spending, the Federal Reserve no longer needs to print money to pay for it, and that will stop the inflation.
Of course, they need help on the other side of the building there in the Senate, and one doubts Democrat Chuck Schumer will actually take that up, but one can hope. Well, EJ and Tony, always, as always, thank you for getting it done for us over at Heritage Foundation. You're the best.
Larry, my
He was thanking me, I assure you. In fact, I think he also said, "You're the best, Larry. It's my favorite show to go on. You're my favorite host, and Salem News Channel rocks." That's what EJ was saying, but the little technical thing. There's more to come. Keep it right here. You're watching the best Salem News Channel show, O'Connor Tonight.